Boom. Good morning. Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Hopefully, you're doing well. It is a lovely Sunday morning. Actually, I shouldn't say lovely because it is snowing outside. So, anyways, hopefully, everyone's having a fantastic Sunday morning so far. We got a lot to talk about today. I'm going to try to be in air on a little bit on the optimistic side here, which isn't my usual forte. And we're going to talk about how negotiations with Iran could potentially go well. I know I did a stream a couple weeks ago, and I'm playing the YouTube game with a little bit of clickbait in the headline or in the title, but we're going to talk about a few potential lights here at the end of the tunnel or in the tunnel at all. So make sure you hit the like button, make sure you subscribe to this channel. I'd really appreciate it. If you're listening on all audio podcatchers, I'd appreciate it if you left a thumbs up or a 5-star review. Stuff would really mean a lot to me. We got quite a few stories to cover today. We'll see how they all go. I'm hoping to keep it at about an hour today, so hopefully everything is going well for everybody. Like I said, we're going to talk about if the negotiations with Iran are going well and what could potentially come out of them. And we're going to cover, all the military assets in the region and just a few other things like the military drills that Iran did with Russia, the partially shutting down of the Strait of Hormuz, and one about North Korea and South Korea. And we'll cover one story about Somalia. So please, everybody, if you are listening live, please make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you go over to the Great Megalodon, sign up over there for the Substack. Please consider becoming a channel member for the lowly price of $2.99 a month. It would go a far way in supporting me and the Matovcik family, and I would greatly appreciate it. You get access to tons of member-only videos. And, of course, TigerFitness.com. Use code Kyle at checkout. Also, go to Fox & Sons Coffee. Use code Kyle at checkout as well. So, without further ado, let's get into the rest of today's show. All right, one more time. Welcome back, everybody. Hello. Hopefully, you're doing well. Please make sure you hit a like on the video on the way in. And I guess let's kind of jump right into the meat of the show today. Where is it? We're going to start off with a statement by Steve Witkoff with Laura Trump, the head of the RNC, Trump's daughter, blah, 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 blah. Let's hear what Steve Witkoff has to say on Iran.
I know that we have red lines here from the U.S. How about over with Iran?
The president asked me that this morning, and I don't want to use the word frustrated. It's almost because he understands he's got plenty of alternatives. But it's curious. He's curious as to why they haven't, I don't want to use the word capitulated, but why they haven't capitulated. why under this sort of pressure with the amount of sea power, naval power that we have over there, why they haven't come to us and said, we profess that we don't want a weapon. So here's what we're prepared to do. And yet it's hard to sort of get them to that place.
And we all know this is just very odd to me that we're still kind of doing this dog and pony show of pretending Iran's going to build a nuclear weapon. They've had 60% uranium enrichment for 5 years now, 5 or 6 years. Since I want to say 2021, they started enriching up to 60%. The JCPOA, as I've said in shows before, had kind of kept enrichment down to 3.5% or something like that. And, they've been in these negotiations for months and months on end, multiple times now, before the 12-day war now or after the 12-day war, and it looks like they're going to strike Iran again. Do I know that for sure? No. But in another story that we're going to cover today, allegedly they've accepted that they're going to have some enrichment. Why they thought they would get rid of it when that was just never on the table, I don't know. And then Steve Witkoff saying that they're frustrated that they won't go for, or that they won't just say they're not going for a nuke. They have a fatwa, right? There's always been something very entertaining to me about people who will say Iran throws gay people off of buildings and they do all these horrible illiberal things that aren't in our own liberal sensibilities, and they're this dictatorship. But for some reason, this religious dictatorship is going to not listen to the fatwa that they have against nuclear weapons, which is basically a religious statement or decree against obtaining nuclear weapons. It's just like that one case. For some reason, they're not this religious dictatorship in this one case, which we have no evidence that they're actually against that or that they're actually plotting to build a nuclear weapon. A lot of people argue and say that, oh, well, what state has gotten up to this enrichment point and not broken up for nuclear weapon? Who cares? They're not doing it right now. And on top of that, we wouldn't have struck them if they had a nuke. Who knows what's going to happen? Anybody telling you that it's for sure one way or the other, I think they're going out on a limb and exposing their bias, which is fine. We all have biases. I have a bias as well. I'll fully admit that. My bias tends to be against Trump, but I try to be as reasonable as possible. And hopefully, listeners of the show at least find my analysis to be somewhat level-headed, despite being biased against Trump. Once again, I feel it's only right that I give you my bias, but though at least try to be fair where I can be fair. So, one more time, everybody, please make sure you hit the like on the video below and make sure to subscribe to the channel. It mean a lot to me. If you got questions or anything like that, feel free to leave them there as well. Let me see. That's we got one more clip that I wanted to play with Steve Witkoff, and we'll continue on here. Our dear friends at DD Geopolitics.
They're probably a week away from having industrial grade bomb making material.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
So for those listening, they're flashing through a bunch of stories about like how long they've been saying that Iran's going to build a nuclear weapon. There was one article here from Chris Hedges all the way back in 1995. All right, Iran may be able to build an atomic bomb in 5 years. That was 1995. We are 30 years later. Here they are, 1995. Another story from 2004. Group says Iran has secret nuclear arms program. 2004, 2006. Why not strike Iran? Iran reported to be expanding nuclear activities all the way in 2006. So let's fast forward in this video. Wow. Yeah, a minute and a half of them basically saying, yeah, fear grows over Iran's nuclear program, June 16th, 2022. I won't play this whole video because they have some music and I don't want to get struck on YouTube, which I may have got struck already. But June 13th, 2025, Israel had the courage to do what needed to be done. Just like we're still repeating the same old line over and over and over again. How can you believe this at this point? If you're believing this, then I don't know what to tell you. I've become more of the mind like we need to just like restrict people's rights anymore. Like if you still believe this, you shouldn't be able to vote. Like I'm sorry, you're too stupid to really critically think and engage in what we call democracy, which is a farce, anyways. Anyways, J Bemke, JC. I'm mostly anti-war, but what are the chances Sam gets drafted and dropped into Iran? He might not be healthy enough with all the stuff that he eats on 5 till midnight. But who knows? You know, I think him and I are the same age. So I'm 31, and I think he's 31, maybe 32. He might be 30, somewhere around there. How long would it take your battery auto shop to build a nuke? About 5 months. 5 months. We'll go with that. That sounds good. Instead of 6 months, because like the whole Friedman unit thing, we'll go 5 months. So I guess let's kind of get into what may seem like good news from the New York Times here. Because I don't want to be all pessimistic all the time. Like I said, I feel like it's only fair. And dear friend of the show, Tommy Salmons, had said that he was listening to, I can't remember his name, Matt Sersley, I think, where they said talks were going well. My hesitation with talks when it comes to the US every single time, and I've laid this out in probably every single show that I've done since like this whole military buildup in Iran has started to kind of happen. We have to anticipate that talks with Iran could always be basically a smokescreen to get enough assets in the region to start another war. That's what they did with Qatar when the Hamas officials were there. That's what they did with Iran last time. But I don't know how long you can just keep poking the bear. I've said this ad nauseum every single show, but we don't know what's going to happen. And that includes even what Trump will do. My bias is that he's probably going to decide on some military action because he has a lot of bad actors in his ear. And also he's always been a Iran hawk. Don't know why. Well, actually, we do know why, because when you stuff $230 million in somebody's pocket, you can get them to do a lot of things. But thank you, Matt Shreve. Hopefully you're talking about me. But yeah, we know that once again, just in the last couple negotiations, they always have, the walkie-talkie in one hand, the phone in one hand, and then a knife in the other. That's what they did with China and Taiwan, where they said, oh, Taiwan hasn't come up in the talks with Xi, but then we send the biggest arms shipment to date to Taiwan. We say that we want negotiations and good relations with Russia, but then we seize their oil tankers, and then we send more money to Ukraine, and then also allow the EU to send $100 billion, $100 billion additional dollars into Ukraine. And then we're going to tell Russia that, hey, we'll just we'll give Ukraine NATO style Article 5 guarantees and security guarantees if you bring an end to this war. Well, why should they trust you? The Trump administration does not negotiate in good faith. Now, you could say this is better than Joe Biden administration because they didn't negotiate at all. But I don't know. What's better, negotiating in bad faith or not negotiating at all? I would think that's probably why at one point Putin said that he prefers Joe Biden to Trump, because he can at least predict Biden. At least, with Biden, you're just no negotiations. It's kind of on autopilot after a certain point. With Trump, you never know what you're going to get. And typically it's, once again, bad faith negotiations. So everybody, please, if you're listening right now, please make sure you hit the like button. It would go a long way in supporting me and also keeping this stream in the algorithm. And feel free to leave a super chat if you are so inclined. Iran says U.S. has not asked it to stop enriching uranium. This is different from the last time they did talks, but the comments made by Iran's foreign minister on Friday contradicted the Trump administration's position. And this is kind of what we have to deal with and what we have to account for. I saw Kurt Mills in an interview with Steve Bannon saying, we don't know what Trump will do. I think he's right to a degree, but also, lest we not forget, we have a lot of bad people in his ear. The United States did not ask Iran to stop enriching uranium in talks over a nuclear deal held in Switzerland this week. Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi is his name, said on Friday, contradicting Washington's public position. Now, one theory I have for this, and I'm not saying this is true. I'm not saying I even know this to be the case, but this is just what the more, I hate to say this, but the plan trusting case could be. The plan truster case could be that the reason why they told Iran that they can enrich uranium to whatever percent they want, or whatever they told them in this specific instance, where what if they told Abbas? The situation might be that they're taking the public stance of they can't have any nuclear enrichment and they have to drop their ballistic missile program to appease the Israelis in public because they want them to come off as looking strong and like they're not capitulating in these negotiations to what Iran wants. But behind closed doors, they're trying to do some actual negotiations and figure out how they can get a deal between Iran and the U.S. that makes everybody happy. Do I know that this to be the case? No, but if a boss is saying that, then I don't know what to make of it. So once again, we're just going to kind of have to see what happens. Trump's saying in 10 to 15 days, and it's been about 3 or 4 days since then. So the next week or so, we could see some shit pop off, or we could see a deal on the table. I don't know. And, it's kind of been my whole MO the entire time. One more time, everybody, please, if you're listening, make sure you hit the like button. They have not offered any suspension, and the U.S. side has not asked for zero enrichment. The foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, said in an interview on the MS Now show Morning Joe. He said Iran was developing confidence-building measures to assure the United States that the nuclear program is peaceful, but was vague about what those measures were. And once again, this is like the whole gray area. President Trump has repeatedly demanded that Iran give up its nuclear program, including by agreeing not to enrich any more uranium. Steve Witkoff, the Middle East envoy, has portrayed Iran's enrichment capability as an absolute red line because it would keep the door open for development of nuclear weapons, which, back when they had the JCPOA, they were limiting enrichment and had inspections of no more than it was like 3.67%. So let's just round down and say 3.67% or 4%, whatever makes you happy. That's what the JCPOA included. We could maybe call it the TCPOA, the Trump Comprehensive Plan of Action, right? It's better you limit their enrichment to 3% uranium, and Israel has to back down or something like that, or Israel can have inspectors go in there. I don't know. Figure something out, but they're not. It seems pretty clear that Iran's not going to give up the nuclear enrichment. They're definitely not going to give up their ballistic missile program. And then on top of that, you can't really have the Mossad, maybe the MI6, and you can't have the CIA pouring Starlink terminals into Iran, funding protesters and basically having the protesters kill people. Yes, I do want to talk about the tariffs here. Maybe once we get through all the Iran Israel stuff, then maybe we'll talk about the tariffs a little bit. I just want to say right here, and please clip this. Hopefully, the AI thing picks up on this. I survived the application of tariffs because all the leftists said that we were going to die and there's going to be massive inflation from the tariffs, and now all the right wingers are losing their mind because they are striking down the tariffs. Guys, I'm sorry, you are dangerously retarded. And I threw this out on Twitter. You were dangerously retarded if you really thought they were going to repeal the income tax. It's just not going to happen. It sounds good on a campaign trail, but they're not going to fucking do that. Now, as far as Letnick making money off the tariffs, I can believe that. That's the way the Trump administration, and I shouldn't just say the Trump administration. This is the way politicians operate. Why do we pretend that like it's ever any different? Everybody like wants to believe Trump is super different. He's really not that far off. Like he's like one click off of Biden when it comes to like the way that he operates politically. Trump is making assloads of money off of these crypto scams. Lutnick is probably making an assload of money off some of these crypto scams and off the tariffs. So why are we pretending they're not looting the treasury just like everybody else is? This is the status quo in America, is that people get elected and then they do these huge now pump and dump schemes and they throw money in the coffers of the people who are close to them that benefit them the most. Not complicated. Trump is no exception to this. I don't know why people think otherwise. We've had 10 years of Trump to figure out that, yeah, he's really not that much different. A White House official contested Aragachi's assessment of the U.S. negotiation terms, saying Mr. Trump had been clear that Iran could not have the capacity to enrich uranium or build nuclear weapons. On Friday, Mr. Trump told reporters he was considering a limited military strike. The amount of enrichment Washington is willing to allow has been a point of contention in years-long efforts to contain Iran's nuclear program. Uranium enriched to low levels can be developed into weapons within months, depending on Tehran's centrifuge capacity, according to the Institute for Science and International Security, a think tank in Washington, shocker, that studies nuclear weapons programs. Iranian and U.S. officials indirectly held discussions through Omani diplomats earlier this week in Geneva. Three Iranian officials with the talks told the New York Times that Iran had indicated a willingness to suspend nuclear enrichment for 3 to 5 years, covering Mr. Trump's presidency, and later join a regional group for civilian-grade enrichment. In exchange, Iran has demanded that the United States lift financial and banking sanctions, as well as the embargo on its oil. Now, what I've heard, and I don't know if any of the stories we're going to cover today will actually cover this, but they're not even offering Iran sanctions relief. I don't know how you expect them to come to the table and give you ground if you're not willing to give up anything in return. Like, that's what negotiations are. There is going to be compromise to some degree. If Iran is willing to give up nuclear enrichment, at least for President Trump's turn, I think that begets them getting sanctions relief. My opinion, we shouldn't have any sanctions on them because they don't pose any kind of military threat to us. But of course, we have to have military or, all these financial, oil, and all this basic embargo on Iran because of Israel. What does Scott Horton always say? Israel's the worst thing about America. He's right, as he usually is about almost everything. Anyways, let's continue on here. Everybody, please make sure you hit the like. Officials on both sides signal that some progress had been made after the negotiations. The discussions ended with an agreement over guidelines for the talks, and each side preparing to exchange drafts on a potential deal. It's not clear when the next round of negotiations will be held. In the interview on Friday, Mr. Aragachi said he hopes to present a draft to U.S. negotiators in the next 2 to 3 days. Aragachi said that diplomacy was the only solution for Iran, adding that he believed Mr. Trump was interested in a quick deal. In recent weeks, the U.S. military has built up forces close to Iran, enabling the United States to take military action as soon as this weekend. And once again, this is written a couple days ago. Trump administration and Pentagon officials said. Trump has said bad things could happen if Iran does not agree to a deal within the next 10 days. But another strike 8 months after the 12-day war in which Israel and the United States hit military and nuclear sites across Iran could run the risk of Iranian retaliation. As I have said, how many times now? How many times have I said that you're going to risk Iranian retaliation? And we do not know if the Iranians are going to telegraph the strikes that they're going to do. They're starting to bail out of, I think it's like the Al Udeid Air Base. They bailed out of the Syrian Air Base. You still have the Abraham or the Lincoln and the USS Gerald R. Ford in the region, in the not the Red Sea, wherever the hell it is. We don't know what Iran will do if you continue to poke the bear. So why don't we just not poke the bear? Why don't we kind of just back off, have better relations? Like, I don't understand what the problem with any of this is. Okay, so we're about 20 minutes in. One more time, everybody hit the like. And I'm going to take a quick break and we will get right back into the rest of today's show right after this short commercial. All right, we're going to take a second today to chill and tell you about the show's sponsors, Tiger Fitness. Make sure you go to the link below to get all the supplements that I use day in, day out, and beyond. As I always say, you do not need supplements to become all jacked and tan or to progress in your health journey, but they could definitely be a useful tool in that respect. So as you can see on tigerfitness.com, we got MTS Nutrition, Blackstone Labs, Ambrosia, HPN, Nutrix Research, America Labs, Alani New, Pump Chasers, there's Redcon One, Accent Sledge, plenty of different companies that pretty much have absolutely any supplement you could possibly think of. Pre-workouts, fat burners, BCAAs, electrolyte mixes, you name it, it's on there. So go to Tiger Fitness through the link below. Use code Kyle at checkout to let them know that I sent you. Get your protein powder, you name it, anything that's going to help you stick to your diet and hopefully achieve your health goals. All right, thanks. Back to the show. So speaking about that, I do have an order from Tiger Fitness coming in today. I know I'm kind of rambling right here in the middle of the show, but they did just get in some heavyweight hoodies, and they just announced a camo, a tiger stripe, and a leopard print heavyweight hoodie from Tiger Fitness. The tiger stripe, leopard print, and camo ones are like I think they're 40 or 50 bucks, and then the heavyweight regular Tiger Fitness ones with just the Tiger Fitness logo on them, those are only like $30. So if you go to tigerfitness.com right now, make sure you use code Kyle at checkout. They have some very, very cheap and very, very good quality clothing that you can get. My wife and I, like, we have like a whole dresser full of Tiger Fitness stuff at this point, and their clothing's very, very comfortable. Highly recommend it. And of course, all the supplements from there are absolutely fantastic. Did I? No, I don't remember if I used anything. Oh no, I had some of the beta alanine this morning. But yeah. Okay. We just meet the Maple Monkeys in hockey. God bless, or gold medal USA. Cool. Yeah, fuck Canada. Everybody wants to do regime change in Canada. I know it's kind of like a joke thing, but yeah, fuck Canada. They're cold. They should just like not exist. If we could like theoretically nuke all the cold places off the planet and just have warm weather everywhere and not Canada or Alaska, that'd be cool. I'm joking in case people can't figure that out. So let's go to this tweet from the Israel Radar, which I don't think is a official account, but they say President Trump has decided to pound Iran for weeks using heavy firepower instead of brief strikes. Israel will play a key role in assault. Scope of destruction in Iran will be unprecedented in Mideast history via Ynet. I don't know. I'm skeptical that that's true. I think Trump is probably still riding high from the Venezuela operation, as a lot of people have said, and I tend to think that's right. And I think they think that this can be a short one and done deal, but there's no indication that that's going to be the case. And Iran doesn't seem to be joking about this either. Do we know if they're actually going to, retaliate in some major way? No, we don't. I don't know that. You don't know that. The only people who know that essentially are Iran, if they're going to go all out on this round of strikes. And the only people who know if they're actually going to strike Iran are probably the Trump administration and maybe Israel. I would think that Israel would really, 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 really hope that the U.S. is going to do it. But, my perspective on this is just that I hope diplomacy prevails and hopefully peace and prosperity reign over the region. I don't know if that's likely to happen, but, let's all hope for that. Jay Forte, once again, good to see you. From our dear friend Dave DeCamp over at antiwar.com. I don't really use the term Orwellian, and everybody's going to lose their mind because I've never read 1984. I kind of get the gist of it, but there is something crazy about threatening to bomb a country at the board of peace. There's also something even crazier about having Benjamin fucking Netanyahu, who started wars with all his neighboring countries, on the board of peace. I don't know how plan trusters are like, yeah, this board of peace is awesome. And I see this Peter St. Onge dude. I'm going to start calling him just Peter Stooge because if I'm being honest, he seems like a retard. Seems like a generally smart dude whose brain got completely fucked by plan trusting, which I've seen this happen to a lot of people. Where they've been saying that like Russia's crawling back to the dollar when they rejected the deal for like $12 billion in investments in the US back in the meeting in Anchorage, Alaska. I think it was DD Geopolitics and Sarah who said that stuff. But yeah, anyways, let's go to this next story from Dave DeCamp. President Trump threatens war with Iran at his first Board of Peace meeting. I like how they kind of put it in quotes. The U.S. president convened a meeting as he's overseeing the largest buildup of U.S. air power in the Middle East since the 2003 invasion of Iraq. President Trump on Thursday convened the first meeting of his so-called Board of Peace, a body he formed to oversee the Gaza ceasefire, which Israel continues to violate, and appeared to threaten that a U.S. attack on Iran could come within 10 days. In a speech at the meeting, Trump references his June 2025 attack on Iran, which targeted the country's nuclear facilities. Now, we may have to take it a step further, or we may not. Maybe we're going to make a deal. You're going to find out over the next probably 10 days, he said. Trump has also said that Iran must make a deal. If that doesn't happen, bad things will happen. Which, it's so crazy to me to see Trump and Marco Rubio heading this quote-unquote Board of Peace. So we're talking about Marco fucking Rubio, who supported every single war since he got in, including almost every single aid package to Ukraine for the first like 2 years. And this guy's on the Board of Peace. Trump oversaw a record drone strike increase in his first presidency, and now the largest bombing campaign in U.S. history during the last year in Somalia. And he's the one overseeing the Board of Peace. Orwellian doesn't even begin to describe it. The U.S. president convened the Board of Peace while overseeing the Wall Street Journal, or what the Wall Street Journal has described as the largest gathering of U.S. air power in the region since 2003 invasion of Iraq. U.S. has sent a second aircraft carrier to the Middle East and deployed dozens of additional fighter jets there in recent days. While Trump claims Iran has the opportunity to make a deal with the U.S., it's unclear what sort of agreement he would accept. And his administration hasn't made a coherent case for why it needs to attack the country. In his remarks on Thursday, Trump said Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, but for months he insisted on the airstrikes obliterated Iran's nuclear facilities, and there's no sign Tehran is even capable of enriching uranium at the moment. According to the New York Times, Iran has suggested it's willing to suspend nuclear enrichment for 3 to 5 years and then enter a regional consortium to enrich civilian-grade uranium, an arrangement that would give Tehran no path to a nuclear weapon, which they didn't have that under the JCPOA either. The U.S.'s real goal with Iran is likely either regime change or removing Iran's ability to strike Israel. Israeli officials have demanded that any deal must include restrictions on Iran's missiles, a condition Tehran would never accept since missiles are its only form of deterrence and way to launch counterattacks if it's bombed by the U.S. or Israel. So, once again, we're getting mixed messages here from the administration. I don't know what to make of all of it. And I hope that there's negotiations and backroom talks and that things are going well in the negotiations. But as I've laid out in this show and previous shows, we just don't know. I don't know what exactly to think, because Trump sometimes does pull out diplomacy, but it just doesn't seem like this is the case. As he gets older and as basically Marco Rubio's running the State Department, I don't know, man. I don't know. So let's talk a little bit about the Russia and Iran holding military drills. Iran on Thursday had held military drills with Russia. Let me make sure this. Okay, yeah, everybody can see that. Iran on Thursday held military drills with Russia amid escalating tensions with the United States after President Trump gave the Middle Eastern country a 10-day timeline for the U.S. and Iran to strike a deal over the latter's nuclear program. Russian sailors conducted the drills with Iranian forces in the Gulf of Oman and the Indian Ocean with the goal of upgrading operational coordination as well as the exchange of military experiences, according to Iran's state-run IRNA agency. Iranian Navy Adam Hassan Maghsoodloo, sorry about that, told the London-based news outlet that Iran International that the drills were intended to promote security and sustainable maritime interaction. The drill exercise followed Iran's launch of 5 missiles toward the Strait of Hormuz on Tuesday that struck targets as part of other large-scale maritime exercises, the semi-official Tasnim news agency reported. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps naval drills are dubbed Smart Control of Hormuz Strait. Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei, or Ali Khamenei, earlier that day sent a stark warning to the U.S., which has amassed its naval presence off Iran's coast. The U.S. sent the world's largest aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford, to the Middle East after it was deployed to Venezuela's coast prior to the U.S. capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. The Americans constantly say they've sent a warship toward Iran, Khamenei wrote on social platform X. Of course, a warship is a dangerous piece of military hardware. However, they're more dangerous than that warship is the weapon that can send that warship to the bottom of the sea. Which, once again, is Trump supposed to back down when he's posed with threats like that? I don't know, man. And we can only hope that they are kind of blustering and it's just everybody gets to beat their chest and then they can do an about face and kind of calm down. We'll see, man. We'll see. U.S. and Iranian officials. Trump said it is not easy to make a meaningful deal with Iran, adding Thursday that otherwise bad things would happen. He praises 10-day timeline as enough time for the two countries to come to a deal, which is ridiculous because my understanding of the JCPOA negotiations were that it took years for them to reach that. U.S. and Iranian officials met for a second round of talks in Geneva on Tuesday. U.S. representatives are pushing for a new deal with the country after the first Trump administration withdrew from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the Obama-era-led deal that limited Iran's enrichment of uranium in exchange for sanctions relief. Trump has threatened Iran as his military forces crack down on widespread anti-government protests. The president voiced support for Iranian protesting the government and warned Iran's leaders not to execute demonstrators. Earlier this month, he said Khamenei should be very worried about the U.S. They tried to go back to the site, Trump told NBC's News' Tom Lamas, claiming Iran attempted to restart its nuclear program. They weren't even able to get near it. There was total obliteration, but they were thinking about starting a new site in a different part of the country. We found out about it. I said, you do that, we're going to do very bad things to you, which once again, how are you supposed to negotiate with someone that's constantly threatening you like that? I don't know. There's just, we can only hope that they come to some sort of deal. Sorry, I'm trying to breeze through this story real quick and we'll see. Jesus. Yeah, hold on. Let me zoom out on this one. Everybody, please make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're going to listen to this on audio, please make sure you give me a 5-star review. It means a lot to me, and please consider becoming a channel member for the lowly price of $2.99 a month. I would greatly appreciate it. So let's go to Al Jazeera now, and we're going to talk about tracking the rapid U.S. military buildup near Iran. As tensions between the U.S. and Iran rise, we examine the military assets Washington has deployed to the Middle East in recent days. The United States administration is intensifying its buildup of a vast array of military assets in the Middle East, and President Donald Trump says Iran has 2 weeks to agree to a deal over its nuclear program and stock of ballistic missiles. We'll skip. Actually, no. As well as the world's largest aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford, which is reportedly joining the Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group in the Arabian Sea, key force multipliers such as E3 Sentry airborne warning and control systems aircraft have been deployed. In a letter to the United Nations Security Council, Iran said that while the country does not seek tension or war and will not initiate war, any U.S. aggression will be responded to decisively and proportionately. The United States will bear full and direct responsibility for any unpredictable and uncontrollable consequences. Here's what we know about recent U.S. deployments of military assets in the Middle East, which has also led to a dispute with the United Kingdom over the use of its joint military base in Diego Garcia. What air power assets has the U.S. deployed to the Middle East? According to open source intelligence and analysts and military flight tracking data, the U.S. appears to have deployed more than 120 aircraft carrier to the region within the past few days, the largest surge in U.S. air power in the Middle East since the 2003 Iraq War. The reported deployments include E3 Sentry airborne warning and control system aircrafts, F-35 strike fighters, F-22 superiority jets alongside F-15s and F-16s. Flight tracking data shows many departing bases in the U.S. and Europe, supported by cargo aircraft area refueling tanks, a sign of sustained operational planning rather than routine rotations. Once again, do we know what they're going to do? No, but I don't like it. I really don't like it. F-22s and F-35s previously escorted B-2 stealth bombers during Operation Midnight Hammer and the U.S. military strikes on Iranian nuclear sites Trump ordered in June 2025 during the 12-day conflict between Iran and Israel. Watch any movement by B-2s that would indicate a possible replay of Midnight Hammer. Mark Kansian, a retired Marine Corps colonel and senior advisor with the Washington-based Center for Strategic International Studies, a think tank, told Al Jazeera. This latest wave was preceded several weeks ago by the arrival of Air Force F-15E Strike Eagles. The U.S. CENTCOM said on social media at the time of the fighter jet enhances combat readiness and promotes regional security and stability, which I don't know how you can say that sending all these forces to the Middle East promotes stability, but apparently, peace is war. War is peace. Basically everything is just, yeah, everything is ass backwards. So, guys, one more time, you'll get this analysis in a few other places, but you don't get all the pizzazz, as my one friend would say, on any other channel. So please make sure you hit the like and leave a super chat if you'd be so kind. What role could Diego Garcia in the UK play? Attention is also focused on Diego Garcia, the joint UK-US military base in the Indian Ocean, Chagos Island, which is capable of hosting long-range US strategic bombers, including B-2 aircrafts. The remote base has historically served as a launch point for major U.S. air campaigns in the region. However, Diego Garcia is a British sovereign territory leased to Washington, meaning London must approve its use for offensive operations. According to reports in UK media, Prime Minister Keir Starmer has indicated to Trump that the U.S. cannot use British air bases, including Diego Garcia and the RAF Fairford in the UK, which is home to the U.S.'s heavy bomber fleet in Europe, for strikes on Iran, as this would be in breach of international law. Trump retaliated by withdrawing U.S. support for UK's decision to transfer the Chagos Islands to Mauritius, announced last year. On Wednesday, the U.S. president said Starmer was making a big mistake in the agreement to transfer sovereignty of the archipelago. Do not give away Diego Garcia, Trump wrote in a post on Truth Social, saying the base could be called upon in any future military operation to counter a potential attack from Iran. So what do we know about the warships in the Arabian Sea? The Gerald R. Ford, the world's largest aircraft carrier, is currently being redeployed from the Caribbean to the Middle East. The carrier and its accompanying strike group expected to arrive in the region in the coming weeks. On Wednesday, it briefly transmitted its locations off the coast of Morocco, suggesting it is transitioning the Atlantic towards the Strait of Gibraltar, then will go into the Mediterranean. This is the same vessel that previously supported U.S. military operations in Venezuela, including missions conducted under Operations USS Southern Spear. So they have a picture just detailing out what the USS Gerald R. Ford has on it. It doesn't really have any numbers. USS Gerald R. Ford will join the USS Abraham Lincoln carrier strike group, which recent satellite imagery shows is operating in the Arabian Sea off the coast of Oman, positioning U.S. naval power within striking distance of Iran. The U.S. Navy has also multiple guided missile destroyers in the region equipped with advanced air defense and ballistic missile interceptor systems. These multi-role vessels can launch Tomahawk cruise missiles capable of striking land targets deep inside Iran alongside their anti-submarine and fleet defense missions. Just more pictures of some of the military assets. They're going to talk about how they're going to respond here, but one thing that I don't really think they're asking themselves is, like, can Iran shoot some of this stuff down? If it shoots some of these ships down, some of ththese planes down, and they start killing serious U.S. troops, how are they going to respond? I don't think Trump will take very kindly to, U.S. troops being killed in the region, but we don't know. Is Trump doesn't seem like the kind of guy that would back down when, U.S. assets and especially military members are getting killed in the region. But, we should back up for a second and realize that, like, this is all a choice. The US does not have to do this. There is no reason why we have to fight Iran. There is, well, I shouldn't say no reason, but there is a bad reason why we have to fight Iran, and that's because they're a regional opponent of Israel. Israel, much to everybody's just blatant knowledge, donates to so many politicians and has their hand in the pocket of the American Treasury and many, many politicians. So, of course, we have to support whatever they want, and what they want is a war with Iran. Turkey doesn't want this. The Saudis don't want this. Oman, I don't think wants it. Qatar doesn't want it. There's only one country over there that really seems to want this, and it's Israel. We are choosing to do a war of choice with Israel, for Israel. How's Iran responding? Iran has publicly warned that it will view any military strike by the US as a serious provocation. Tehran has also moved ahead with its own planned military activities. It announced and began joint naval exercises with Russia in the Sea of Oman and northern Indian Ocean on Wednesday. These are intended to enhance maritime cooperation and signal deterrence amid rising US pressure. As part of these maneuvers, Iranian authorities said it issued a notice to airmen NOTAM for rocket launches over the southern Iran from 3:30 to 13:30 GMT and temporarily closed parts of the Strait of Hormuz, a strategically vital shipping route, during live fire drills. Meanwhile, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov also warned that a U.S. strike on Iran would have serious repercussions, underscoring the risk of escalation if hostilities spread. Satellite images published by Reuters news agency on Thursday showed that Iran has recently built a concrete shield over a new facility, a sensitive military site, covered it in soil. Experts say advancing work at a location reportedly bombed by Israel in 2024. Images also show that Iran has buried tunnel entrances at a nuclear site bombed by the U.S. during Israel's 12-day war with Iran last year, fortified tunnels near another, and has repaired missile bases struck in the conflict. So here you could just see some of the satellite images. Analytical reports will suggest Iran has built a multi-layered defense centered on mines, missiles, submarines, and drones with the intent of slowing down U.S. forces. Some analysts say Iran may seek an immediate full-scale confrontation, but this may be difficult. The Iranians have, over the past 6 months, quietly taken additional steps to move critical assets further underground. Vali Nasir, a professor of international affairs and Middle East studies at Johns Hopkins University, said during a roundtable discussion hosted by CSIS Middle East program this week. They're going to be unpredictable, he said, but I think they could go big at the beginning, or they might want to drag the United States into a protracted situation. Honestly, I think Iran would probably want to draw the U.S. in because they probably learned from the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and they probably want to bleed out the U.S.'s resources because they depleted a lot of U.S. resources in the 12-day war, and also Israeli assets, which we know that Israel would likely join in on this, even though the U.S. has said that, like, right now they're planning on doing it by themselves. We don't know what will really happen, but I would like to think, I shouldn't say I would like to think, but I would think that Iran would probably try to be strategic and try to slow the U.S. down as much as possible and bleed them of resources, so that way they would have to back down and leave their territory. I don't know if that's going to happen. With the large amount of military assets in the region, I would think that they probably just want to do a Operation Shock and Awe like they did in Iraq and try to just do as much devastation as possible. But once again, that runs the risk of, depleting all your resources early and then Iran striking back and then not being able to strike them again if they start to retaliate in a serious way. I don't know which one's more likely. We'll just kind of have to wait and see, and hopefully we don't have to see it all. You hit a tanker, you hit an oil facility, or you hit an American ship, then it's up to President Trump to decide whether to escalate further, and it can go beyond that. We're in a scenario this might get out of control very quickly. Is the U.S. likely to attack Iran? According to experts, it is a very real possibility. The United States is doing all the things it would do if we're going to conduct some sort of attack, Kansian told Al Jazeera. It has moved aircraft into the area, 2 aircraft carriers plus enablers like the AWACS. Barbara Slavi, distinguished fellow at the Stimson Center, agreed with this assessment. It seems that the Trump administration has decided it's going to attack Iran again, and I presume in conjunction with the Israelis. What the objectives are, we have yet to see. Can it be contained? Will others be drawn in? These are really important questions, and we don't have answers. So this is a question I think everybody is asking. Is this a similar situation to what we saw earlier this year in Venezuela? Everybody, one more time, please make sure you like the video and leave a super chat and consider becoming a channel member. It would mean a lot to me. A buildup of U.S. military assets in the Caribbean close to Venezuela, which began in September 2025, led to multiple strikes on Venezuelan boats that the U.S. claimed, without proof, were carrying drugs. It culminated in the dramatic January 3rd raid on Caracas by U.S. forces and the abduction of President Nicolas Maduro, who now faces trials on guns and drug charges in New York, which is just hilarious. Um, the buildup in the Arabian Sea has similarities, but one key difference is the strategic context. Unlike the Venezuela raid, there hasn't been a large deployment of special operations forces, and Iran's geography, far inland and heavily defended, makes a quick ground operation raid unlikely. If there are strikes, I would expect long-range missile attacks against security forces such as the IRGCs. Strikes against nuclear facilities are also possible, but missiles like Tomahawks can only damage above-ground facilities, he added. Secretary of State Marco Rubio reportedly planning to travel to Israel on February 28th to meet with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, a State Department official said. Last summer, the U.S. carried out airstrikes on Iran's nuclear facilities, even as senior American diplomats were scheduled to meet with Iranian counterparts in ongoing talks. So, one more time, we also did this back last summer where they had talks, and once again, the talks were used as a smokescreen to basically get Iran to let down their guard. I don't know what's going to happen. Man, it's not looking good, and I really hope something good can come out of this. Um, I'm not very optimistic because this is what it looked like last time, and especially with negotiations going on. Um, we just don't know. So, everybody watching right now, how's everybody doing? Leave a comment. Let me know how you're doing. Are you having a good weekend? Is it snowing where you're at? What do you think Trump is going to do? Do we think he's going to strike? Do we think there's going to be a diplomatic W? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'll watch you for a minute. And then we got two more stories and we're going to close this one out. And before we close this one out, please make sure you like the video. Please make sure you go to tigerfence.com, use code Kyle at checkout. As I just told you, my hoodies are going to be getting here today. We just placed an order on Wednesday. They're starting to use Amazon for shipping. So it used to get here a little bit quicker, but that's all right. We got a little bit of inconvenient weather. So just is what it is. Everybody, make sure you go check out commoncrown.com as well. We have new music. We just got back one of our full tracks, and Jen just did vocals on Friday, and I just chills, dude. They sounded absolutely incredible. So I can't wait to share that one with you guys. Everybody go over the Great Megalodon YouTube channel, as there will be video content on there eventually. I'm not going to make a promise as to when, but eventually. Is there anything else I need to shill? I don't think so. So why don't we move on to the last two stories and we'll close this one out. JC, is always good to see you. Seoul and Pyongyang make rare exchange of statements over drone intrusions. Kim Yo-jong says she highly appreciates South Korea's preventative steps on drone incursions. A rare volley of official comments between Seoul and Pyongyang over alleged South Korean drone incursions in North Korea has raised cautious hopes of renewed communications as Seoul steps up efforts to revive long-stalled inter-Korean ties. South Korea's Ministry of Unification said Thursday that it acknowledges the North's response to Seoul's official comments regarding the drone incident. We take note of North's swift response to the government's expression of regret over the drone incident and its announcement of measures to prevent a recurrence, a ministry official said. The preventative steps announced yesterday by the unification minister are intended to safeguard the safety of peace of both South and the North. Chong Wade also commented on the North's response, saying it hopes both sides will refrain from actions that escalate tensions in the border areas and will work together to build peace. A day earlier, Unification Minister Chung Dong-young announced steps aimed at preventing civilian drone intrusions into the north, including reviewing the reinstatement of no-fly zones along the border as part of a partial revival of the suspended 2018 inter-Korean military agreement. Kim Yo-jong, the influential sister of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, said she highly appreciates Chung's acknowledgement of drone intrusions and his willingness to prevent a recurrence. Such a foolish act of imperiling oneself should not be repeated, Kim said in a statement carried by North's official Korean central news agency. She also said the North's military leadership will take a step for heightening vigilance in all sectors along the southern border, with the ROK referring to South Korea by its official name, the Republic of Korea. The border with the enemy should be firmly guarded, she added. With the back and forth does not amount to formal dialogue. It reflects a rare instance of indirect inter-Korean communication through public statements as both sides appear to be seeking to manage tensions stemming from the drone incident. A joint police-military investigation is probing allegations that 3 civilians flew drones in North Korea on 4 occasions between September 2025 and January. Analysts caution against viewing the exchange as a breakthrough. The latest pattern suggests that the South Korean government is announcing preventative measures in response to North Korea's demands, which could give Pyongyang the upper hand, said Park Wong-gon, a professor of North Korean studies at Ewha Women's University. Park added that Kim's remarks about strengthening vigilance along the border signaled an intent to reinforce North Korea's military posture despite Seoul's proposal to partially restore inter-Korean military agreement. North Korea has little interest in reviving the military pact. Seoul's push to do so could weaken our surveillance and posture along the border. The 2018 agreement created buffer zones designed to reduce military tensions during a period of diplomatic engagement, but was effectively suspended in 2024 as tensions escalated. South Korea's Ministry of National Defense said Thursday it would pursue reinstating no-fly zones while putting in place security measures to ensure there's no impact on military readiness. The ministry said consultations would include U.S. forces, Korea, and United Nations Command to maintain a strong combined defense posture. Meanwhile, ahead of North Korea's 9th Congress Workers' Party scheduled for later this month, North Korea has staged a display highlighting its military capabilities. According to the state-run KCNA, Kim Jong-un attended the ceremony in Pyongyang and the previous day marking the presentation of 600 millimeter multiple rocket launchers to military units. In a speech, he described the system as a large caliber, super precision, multiple rocket system that has completely changed the role and conception of artillery accepted by modern warfare. So I don't know, just a short story. I don't really talk about the Korea situation that much. Just figured I'd show a little bit more optimism here. No, not yet, JC. Just one more story and then we'll be wrapping there. But hopefully that means that things are going a little bit better over there. We really don't want any any more violence in the world. We could just use a little bit more cool and attention. It's like, everybody just be cool, man. All right, JC, this is the last story. So everybody, please make sure you get your comments, questions, all that good stuff in here as we wrap the show. Last story, U.S. launched 36 airstrike in the year in Somalia, which they're on pace to damn near double the amount of strikes they did in Somalia. According to AFRICOM, the strike targeted al-Shabaab in southern Somalia. U.S. Africa Command said in a press release on Wednesday night that its forces launched another airstrike in Somalia February 17th as the Trump administration continues its record-breaking bombing campaign in the country. The command said the strike targeted al-Shabaab in the vicinity of Harbol, a village about 46 miles northwest of the southern port of Kismayo. As usual, AFRICOM offered no other details about the strike, and there have been no statements from the U.S.-backed Somalia government about military operations in the area that day. Specific details about units and assets will not be released to ensure continued operation security, AFRICOM said. A day before the February 17th strike, the U.S. conducted an airstrike in Somalia's northeastern Puntland region that AFRICOM said targeted the ISIS affiliate, which is based in caves in the remote mountain region. The Trump administration has overseen a major escalation in airstrikes in Somalia, which came after President Trump loosened the rules of engagement for the U.S. military in early 2025, which he did do under his first administration as well. AFRICOM launched at least 124 airstrikes in Somalia in 2025, shattering the previous annual record for airstrikes in the country, which President Trump set at 63 during his first term during 2019. This year, the U.S. is on track to break the 2025 record if it maintains its current pace. The latest marks at least the 36th time the U.S. bombed Somalia in 2026, which include 26 airstrikes in January alone. All right, that is the last story for the day. Peace President is bombing the ever-loving shit out of Somalia, bombing the ever-loving shit out of everywhere else, including killing a strongly Catholic population in Venezuela. As far as the tariffs go, dude, nobody really thought they were actually going to get rid of the income tax in favor of tariffs. The amount that the U.S. spends could not be justified by the tariffs alone. My friend Trey 50 Daniel, if you guys don't follow Trey 50 Daniel on Twitter, make sure you go follow him. He's awesome. I really like the dude. We did a fatherhood episode. I like his analysis on a lot of things. We disagree on some stuff, but it's always a good faith disagreement. I'd buy the dude a beer tomorrow and I'd send Christmas presents to his kids. If ever possible. So there's no bad blood, but he seems to disagree on this, and he said that they were pairing with other policies to repeal the income tax. I think if they were serious about bringing back manufacturing, which tariffs alone will not do, and some other policies, deportations, then maybe, but as it stands right now, just no. It's amazing how big Trump's campaign's promises were. Yeah, and like I don't it amazes me that people really believed it because like there are people way smarter than me out there who analyze these things with a lot more depth than I do. I understand I do a podcast on this and I talk to people a lot about this stuff. I pay very, very close attention to it, but there's definitely smarter people out there than me who actually bought into a lot of these promises when to me they always seem like bullshit. Um Shocker, campaigning politicians lie. I I I don't know how people just didn't see this in the first place. And then um as I've said ad nauseum, like the end of the war in Ukraine, I don't know how people expected Trump to do this when he was still he never laid out a coherent plan for it, and he was still bragging about sending, the Javelin anti-tank missiles to Ukraine in his first administration. So, like, what the hell, guys? Like, what the fuck are we doing? How did you believe this? I don't know. It's too much for me. So, as far as this week goes, we got 5 till midnight tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern time, your favorite Monday night show airing every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. Hopefully I'll be back on with Nico House this week. He's been on a little bit of a vacation, so we've been keeping up. I know he's having a really, really good time, and he just had a little girl. So everybody make sure you go follow Nico House and make sure you subscribe to this channel. So make sure you hit a like. Tuesday night is a Common Crown practice, and then I will be back next Sunday. I don't think I have anything else really going on. Oh, I'll be on the Kelly Patrick show. We're gonna be doing that show around 5 tonight. I don't think he does live, so that'll be released, I'm sure, probably in a few days. So everybody, please make sure you hit the like. Please consider becoming a channel member for the lowly price of $2.99 a month, where you can join the other great people. Hold on. Abrogate D's, B Cornish, Trey 50 Daniel, Rachel Wilson, Gage WL 12, and Lee R. Silver. Please join them in becoming members. Please like, subscribe, follow. That is my old Twitter, Matovcik, which I'm still working on getting back. Let me pull up my actual Twitter now for the time being because we're trying to get the old Twitter back. K Matovcik 343. Please go follow me on Twitter. It is my backup, so hopefully I'll get my regular Twitter back. Fuck them hackers, man. So everybody like the stream, follow me on Twitter, go follow Common Crown, go follow 5 till midnight, all that good stuff. And until next time, everybody, I will see you tomorrow, hopefully Wednesday, and definitely next Sunday. All right, everybody, take care. I love you all.